Hi, it's Alabama Annie here in the kitchen of the old home place once again on a very, very hot uh, August day. It's very hot outside, so it's a good day to be indoors. It's a good day to tell you a story. So, the one I'm going to tell you today, actually, there'll be two of them. They're fairly short, and a song to go along with them. Um, Bigfoot. We're going to talk about Bigfoot. You know, he pops up in the news occasionally. There are shows about people who look for him. And if you look closely when you walk in the forest, it's not improbable that an ape could exist in the southeastern United States with all of the berries and the nuts and the water sources and the deep hollows and the rocks and caves. Who knows? But today I'm going to kick this off with a story that came from a newspaper. It's an actual account of a news report in 1936 near Talladega, Alabama, in a place called the Chocolate Valley. Sheriff W.P. Cotton and two of his men were called to a farm bordering the Chocolate Valley last week in answer to a frantic call from Arthur Baker and his family. The sheriff said it isn't one he'll soon forget, and neither will Mr. Baker. Mr. Baker said he was working in his field when a man-like creature approached him walking on all fours in the manner of an ape. He said the creature was covered in dark brown hair from head to toe and unclothed. Baker said when the creature came close to his fence that it stood upright and began making sounds as if it were trying to talk to Mr. Baker. Baker said the creature stood about 6 to 6.5 foot tall and had human-like features, including hands and feet. When Mr. Baker tried to make a run for anything to use as a weapon, he said the creature dropped on all fours again and raced off into the forest. Meanwhile, at a nearby farm, a man and his wife said they had seen a similar creature near their barn and garden on two separate occasions. We started to shoot it until we noticed how human-like it was, the farmer said. Sheriff Cotton and his men found footprints in the vicinity of the fence at Mr. Baker's, who had first seen the ape-like creature. As far as I can tell, those were the hand and footprints of a human-like creature, or maybe an ape, the sheriff speculated. Not a month before, Sheriff Cotton had received a report that some hunters near the Chocolate Creek had been chased from their camp by several of these creatures who threw rocks and sticks at them. He said they surrounded their camp. One of the hunters fired off a couple of shots at them but missed, chasing them a long way, enough for the group to make a run for their truck, which was parked about a mile away on a logging road. But the hunters told Cotton that they were pursued to their truck by the creatures and pelted with rocks again as they drove away. There is speculation that these sightings are due to the escape of two apes from a circus that passed through a few years before. Cotton believes the apes could have survived out in the mountains and might even have produced offspring. Yeah, it's possible. Anything is possible. He said he believed the plentiful plants and nuts and berries found in the area could sustain them and the plentiful water supply as well, and said it would be easy for them to have lived in this remote area for years without discovery. And that's just what I said. See? So it makes you wonder, what's out there. Now I'm going to scroll down to a story that I wrote about myself. And this happened several years ago. I used to sell rock for a living. A friend of mine, a dear friend who's since passed away, said that I should, because our old farm here at the old home place, it seems to grow rocks. That was punishment when we were kids, to get a bucket and go out and pick up rocks. And after a rain, there'd be more rocks to pick up. It just never ended. Not to mention all the creek beds, the dry creek beds, where there are wonderful fossils that you can find, and arrowheads along the walking trails. There are some really old road beds and trails up here. Now, when my friend suggested I sell rock, I said, well, hey, that's a great idea. I've got plenty of them. So I painted a sign and stuck it in the front yard, and it read, "Rock for sale. A million years in the making." And I sold a lot of rock. Thank you, Brian. That was a great idea. So I'm going to start reading at this point. I say, so I gather the rocks and bring them down from the woods to my front yard. I sell them by the stack. It's a good little side business for a blues woman. And it often involves going off the beaten track in the forest, walking those dry creek beds, or in the open fields and ridges. And after a big rain, there are rocks everywhere, of every shape, size, and description, washed up, it seems, right out of the ground by the heavy rains and the freezes. And in the wintertime, when the rushing waters come down from the higher mountains and the ridges, boy, the creek beds are full of them. Well, on this particular sunny winter day, I was a good way off the road, and I remember it distinctly. I had driven up the trail in my Jeep, and then I veered off to the right down a road my brother had cut for deer hunting toward a deer stand, and I was then behind the old cemetery at Bethany Church. And I was back far enough I couldn't even hear the interstate, or I could just barely hear a train going by in the distance. And anyway, I was up there walking the dry creek bed and tossing rock up toward the back of my Jeep, where I would then load them into the back of the Jeep to bring down here. And I had proceeded on like that for a while, took a break, had a smoke, ate a snack, and then went back to work. And as I worked, the wind began to blow. And as I listened, I started to hear noises up above me. I could hear the wind blowing through the trees on the ridge above me, and I could hear the leaves blowing across the ground. But I also caught a scent on that breeze and that wind, and it was a musty odor like a wet dog, or maybe even a bear. But also there was a hint of urine in that smell, and I thought it could be a bear. That they're, because they do migrate through here occasionally. So I kept an eye out, and I continued to work. I kept throwing rocks up out of the creek bed toward the Jeep. And then not a minute later, I heard the sound of a limb cracking, a sharp snap on that ridge above me, and I thought the wind must have caused a limb to break. I listened and scanned the ridge line. The wind had died down, and with it, all of the forest sounds. The birds stopped. There were no birds. There were no sounds of little animals scurrying across the forest floor. Nothing. And I thought, because I've learned when that happens, or in the summertime when tree frogs or cicadas, if it's a year for them, stop singing, you need to pay attention, because something caused them to stop. Could just be a cat walking across your yard, but it could be something else. So no birds called nor squirrels scurried in the trees, and I kept an eye on that ridge, but I couldn't see much for the undergrowth. I had the feeling of being watched, though, and I remember that feeling. I was looking all around me, but trying to stay cool. I was trying to remain calm and just observe and listen. But I got that chill up the back of my neck, and my hair stood on end, and I just laughed and said I was getting paranoid, and I went on with what I was doing, but my imagination was working overtime. And I got lost in thought for a while, and I started loading the rock finally into the back of the Jeep. I was really busy with that for a while, and some of those rocks were really heavy, so I was working at that point, not paying much attention. But suddenly, from the direction of that ridge above me, a rock, and I promise you this happened, this rock, about so big, bigger than a football, came hurtling through the air and landed right there in the pile of rocks that I had gathered that I was putting in the Jeep. I slowly turned, gave that ridge a good looking over, and I smelled that smell again on the air. Now, and I'll say it, I was scared. I backed away from the hatchback of the Jeep and slammed it. I moved around the Jeep toward the driver's side door and didn't take my eye off that ridge the whole time, as I heard something up there beginning to move, snapping limbs. I could hear leaves being shuffled around, and I thought I heard a grunting sound. I didn't know. I thought for a minute, wild pig, but they don't throw rocks. I got into that Jeep and I fired it up and I drove away. I hit the ridge road. I came down, across the creek and back into the yard of my house, and I didn't stop till I got in the front yard. But I had my eyes on the rearview mirror the whole time, because, you know, they say you never always see what's behind you. Well, I didn't see anything. And I don't know for sure what exactly happened back in that remote hollow that day. I don't know if somebody was up there and they played a trick on me. It's possible, but I don't think so. Because they know I carry a pistol. So, you know, that's kind of a moot point with people who know me, who would have been in the woods. I don't know what it was, but I think I might have encountered a Bigfoot. And I will say that I have seen shelter structures, trees that are unnaturally bent and come together in places. And after the tornado we had last year, I have seen some unusual use of the broken trees, which makes me really speculate, could a Bigfoot be residing in the forest? Who knows? Anyway, now I'm going to move on and play you a song I just wrote about Bigfoot. So, let me get squared away here. And I'm sorry the angle of the camera isn't right for you to really see the guitar, but I'm just kind of in a cramped position right now. I'm rearranging for this podcast. It'll take me a while to get it right, but I'll get it. So, here we go. Did I really think what I think I saw was my eyes playing tricks on me? I saw something out across the field and it just won't leave me be. It was a great big creature, stood 8 foot tall, covered in hair, yeah, that's what I saw. I saw something out across the field and it just won't leave me be. I saw something out across the field and it just won't leave me be. It was a great big creature, stood 8 foot tall, yeah, that's what I saw. I saw something out across the field and it just won't leave me be. Did I really see what I think I saw, or were my eyes playing tricks on me? Thank you for listening and watching.